And then now the CDs, we're coming close to closing. Everything's looking good. Now we're what's called the final walkthrough. So you do the final walkthrough either the day before, the morning of closing, or it's better to do in the morning if you can. But if it's an early morning, you do it the evening before. So what you want to do is check on all non-realty items. Like right now, this evening, one of my mentees went to one of my other homes that's closing, and they didn't have when they first looked at the home, there was no stove. And you can't buy an FHA home without a stove. They won't let you. It's against their law. It has to be a livable home. So they had to agree to put a stove in before we could close. So my client went there today to check on the stove and do some other walkthrough stuff, but they went through and did the stove. You want to make sure that this sounds funny, but this is another thing you check for, that none of the blinds are fixtures. So what that means, like one of my clients that we had, they had curtains in every window, beautiful curtains. They were like handwritten, whatever. They were gorgeous, and they had them in everything. And then what we did when we did the final walkthrough the day before closing, all the curtains were missing. And instead there were these giant holes in the walls where they just unscrewed the curtains and didn't even try to patch it. It looked horrible. The whole thing was, we were like, what the hell is this? So we had to call the client. They had to give us money. The other agent had to pay money, or the other seller, to get the repairs done on the home before we could close in an extended closing. So please do a walkthrough. I'm going to show you what the form looks like in a second. The other thing you check is
I'll tell you a scary story about a walkthrough. Now, you know that I'm more on the investment side of things.
Oh yeah.
But
Cool.
there was no house.
What?
There was no house. It had burnt down to the ground the night before.
What?
And I'll tell you. Now, there wasn't much to burn to begin with. Full disclosure. But there was a bunch of what do you call people who squatters, and investigation. It was arson. It was arson, but they never found the people. They think it was probably the squatter, or it might have been some sort of accident, but it was intentional. And I just had this weird feeling, because so I got the weird feeling because the night before there had been another fire in an apartment complex, and I'm like, oh man, what would be the odds of my house burning down? And we had closing like around 11, 12 o'clock, and it was en route, and I drove by, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And the fire trucks were still there, like dashing it out. And I was like, yeah, I got to do your walkthroughs.
But so that's a great example right there. I can't even, man, yeah. So then also, not so wild. You got to make sure the house is clean.
Yeah.
Especially, so the other thing you can do is called the lease back, where if someone sells a home and they need to rent it back from the new buyer for a week or so, while they wait for their other home they're buying to close, that happens a lot. So one of the reasons you do that is you do what's called the lease back, where they lease the home back, and you really want to check for cleanliness. And one of my brokers before, the lady did a week lease back, and the people literally had bags of garbage everywhere because they stopped paying the trash because they were moving out. They didn't pay the trash can. And they had 4 or 5 bags of garbage leaking crap in the carpets. It was horrible. It was terrible. So that agent had to pay for a person to come in, remove the garbage, and pay for a professional carpet cleaning because they didn't do a final walkthrough. So they gave the deposit back without even knowing. So it was crazy. And it cost them like $400 out of their own pocket, but they learned. They're going to check. And then you check to make sure there's no damage to the home and nothing was destroyed. People weren't kicking holes in walls and all that. I'm going to show you a walkthrough form real quick. Here it is. So this is the form you would fill out. The new one is a lot better. This is an updated form. It used to be a lot more cheesy. And again, the form number is 1925, and you can see buyer walkthrough, confirmation, acceptance. So right now it says, did you get the home inspected or not? So right away, you have to let the buyer agree that, yes, I had an inspector, or no, I didn't. But they didn't have an inspector. This lets them agree that I knew you told me to get an inspection. I told not to. So this protects you that way as well. So it's really important to have this form as well at closing. So let's say that if it was inspected or not, you check on that. So a lot of times the inspection will say, yes, we had it inspected. We asked for repairs. And then it's up to the buyer to say, yes, I want to do a re-inspection, where you have you pay someone to go back and check the repairs. So you can say, yes, I did that, or I didn't. If they have a residential home or a residential service, which is a home warranty, we just talked about those. If you have one of those in place, you're going to purchase or you chose not to purchase. Remember, it's up to the buyer. If they don't get one from the seller, they can still purchase their own. So they have to say yes or no. I decided to buy one, or I just didn't decide to. And then you're going to do before closing. You're going to say, I saw the home on this date, and then you're going to put the date that you put in. I also like to put the time. It's silly, but if you put both, they can't. I know it sounds, Dan's laughing, but if you don't put both, they're going to say, I was never there. And you say, this is the time, this is the date, you saw it. So they can't try to come back at you because it's happened. Or if they say, I don't want to get a walkthrough, they can say, I don't want to do a walkthrough. I just love the home. Some new construction, they say that we're good. We just want to have it. Then you would say no. And if that happens, you're going to say, yes, they saw the home. And some people buy the home without ever showing up. So if you have an out-of-state buyer, like a VA buyer, I use an example of that a lot. They call me like 6 months before and say, I'm coming to San Antonio. I'm having a permanent change of station. My PCS orders came through. I need a house. And I'm like, all right, we can't get you a rental. You're too far out, but we can get you a home to own. And then I do everything video. So right here, we're going to say they would have, but you can't say because they did not visit the house in person, but I was there with the video live. So I could check that box if they're buying sight unseen. But some people are just like, we had the craze going on a year and a half ago. They were buying homes left and right. They didn't care what it looked like. They were just knocking them out. Okay. And then you accept, and the last thing you see it, you accept the home in its present condition. So they're saying, I did all these or I didn't do them, but right now I know I'm closing tomorrow or later today. I'm accepting the home like it is. And then they're going to sign both, one or the other. And then they're going to get, and then this is what, as the agent, when you guys get it signed, you're going to print it off and you're going to take it with you to closing and make 2 or 3 copies. You keep one for your broker, you keep one for the client, you give them at closing if they don't already have a copy, if they didn't do it digitally, and you give one to the title company. The reason you do that is the title company puts it in their folder, in their file, and it's now an official document of closing. So it protects you as well. I know we're talking a lot about protecting yourself as agents, but that's very important. So it protects you as an agent. So if the client says, I never did a walkthrough, I never did this, the title company can even now pull up those documents and say yes. So you're doing your due diligence as an agent to protect yourself, but also protect your clients. By doing this, you protect your client to say, yes, you saw the home. So it's very important to do this and to have everyone see it and to knock it out.
Sometimes you got to remind them.
Yep, you do.
You know, you got to remind them, yeah, you did see it. You know, you liked it.
And especially if it's a new build, that's a 6 months build, they're going to be seeing it a couple times. And then at that point, yeah, you liked it. And then I've had, like buyer's remorse. Sometimes they walk in and say, why did I buy this house? There's no, I didn't agree to this. Like, well, actually you signed this form yesterday or 2 days ago that said you did, and you accepted it in the form. So you really have to be careful. I mean, I had a client, and anyway, I don't want to tell too many stories, but stories are fun. I had a quick client in Canyon Lake that they bought a home, really fancy home, like 600,000-700,000. Everything was good. We did a virtual walkthrough. The ladies drove in. She walked through it. We did the buyer sign off the walkthrough form. The next day, as they were moving in, they left the doors open all day when they moved in. So their AC overheated, froze, and all of it leaked to the ceiling into their upstairs.
Oh my God.
So they tried to tell me, hey, you have to come out here and pay for the repair. And I'm like, it was working fine yesterday. Like, we didn't know that. I'm like, you accepted it as is. Here's your form, you signed. And we got them a home warranty, so they still fixed it with the home warranty. But they were mad and they wanted the agent to fix it.
Oh,
and I was like, no, that's not going to happen, guys, because that's why you protect yourself with that form. You make sure that you're protected and no one can say you didn't show that. And then, of course, you want to make sure they sign it. If you're in person, bring it with you, have them sign it. If not, make sure you send it to them digitally, and then make sure you have it signed. A lot of title companies, and I know Chicago, the CD I showed you an example, when you do the closing, if you don't have a buyer walkthrough, they will bring you one and say, here is a buyer's walkthrough form, please sign it. Because they don't want anything to come back to them that say, I didn't know I was buying this house. I didn't know that. It's silly, but some people have said that. So that way you protect yourself with the title company as well. It's very important to do that.